All right. Welcome to this week's episode of Nitty Gritty. We are bringing it back with another recap for this week. We're celebrating Thanksgiving by celebrating ourselves.
Or our guests. I'm lounged out on the couch right now. It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
We're not at Bam Bam's today.
Nope.
We're at your office.
We're hanging out in our office trying to avoid the weather.
Yeah. It's going to be ugly tomorrow.
So what's crazy, I was looking back, our last recap, I thought it was longer. It was only 10 episodes ago.
Yeah.
So we've done 10 episodes since our last recap, and our plan was to do it at the end of the year, but we kind of lined ourselves up and scheduled out.
Right. This is the perfect week to do it.
Some awesome guests, and so we decided just to do it this week. And we even had another idea where we're going to bring our wives on and do it with us. Idea, I had the idea. I thought it would be fun to hear kind of their perspective.
But Andrew is 51% majority owner of this thing, so my opinion doesn't matter.
But lucky for Cam, we had puppies last night, so that is preoccupying Jenna at the moment, raising the
it's
puppies.
It's not Jenna that I'm worried about. It's Ashley.
Why?
We'll get in a fight or something on the air. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
We'll edit that
No, I
part
think
out.
it would actually be pretty cool to get their perspective. I do feel like most of our listeners are females, and, you know, I just feel like they hear things and pick up on things that we don't.
Oh, for sure. Jen will talk about episodes, and I'm like, oh, that's what you got from that.
Isn't that funny?
Weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I just say, like, we should try working on, you know, just putting all the toys in this other room so it doesn't mess up this room. And it's like, listen, I can't do everything perfectly. I'm like, oh, no, that was just an idea. I wasn't pointing fingers, you know.
Uh-oh, we're already going down this path.
Yeah, see?
We're already going
what I
down
mean?
it.
We speak two different languages. Love
So,
you, honey.
On this episode, it was kind of fun to look back over who we've had. Do you have a guest that stood out to you over the past 10?
Oh, I have a horrible short-term memory.
I did too. That's why I had to go back and like write down all of the names.
I should have done that.
Do a reminder so I knew.
What's yours? I'll try to copy yours.
So these 10 episodes were fun. Like, I feel like it was people knew where to like podcast. Like, it was like people's first time telling their stories, which was kind of fun.
Right.
Like,
wait, is Mata shopping in the last 10?
Nope.
Oh, they're not?
No,
Okay.
I think they were the very last one before our last recap.
Oh, gotcha.
So like this one started with Abby.
Okay, that was fun.
Abby, and then Anna, Jimmy, Bob, Robin, Tandy, Danny, Chelsea, Tyson, and then Kevin and Annie. Did you get all those?
No.
Okay, that's who we had.
Oh yeah, we've had some.
But I don't know that I could pick a favorite. What stands out most to me is like the heaviness of the conversations that we had.
Yeah.
Like there was some pretty heavy stuff that we talked about.
Oh, Robin and Tandy.
Danny.
Oh, yeah. Duh.
I mean,
yeah. What are we doing with all these like heavy hitting stories?
we got death. We have
Drugs, death,
abuse. I mean, all sorts of stuff this last kind of recap. And it was kind of weird
Tyson.
because,
I mean, dude, we went from drugs, polygamy,
yeah,
sexual assault,
we
drugs and runaways again.
We like totally veered away from like the business entrepreneur for sure.
Right.
We kind of came back with Kevin and Annie at the end, but yeah, it's been interesting. So kind of,
yeah, Anna McFarlane. Yeah, we had some. There's been some good ones.
I know. That's the thing. It's like it's always hard to choose.
Yeah, I don't know if I could pick a favorite. Out
Which
of
one
those.
you've had fun with. I mean, I can't count how many times like literally my jaw was just on the ground. Like, hold on, what?
Right.
Like you're telling.
Well, you had Bob Berg too.
What happened to you? Yeah.
Your bucket list.
Exactly.
Oh, I only missed it by a few hours too. Dang.
He wished me a happy birthday on Facebook.
Wow.
He wrote
Really?
me a message on Facebook on my birthday wishing me a happy birthday.
That'd be like Marissa Miller telling me happy birthday.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Brent's like, who's that?
So something.
She's in the General Relief Society presidency.
So
I'm just kidding. She's not.
something.
What?
What's going on with that?
Sorry.
Kind of interesting update on Nitty Gritty. I finally figured out a way, the nerd in me, to track what we have. And the last 10 episodes, we have been ranked as a top podcast in either business entrepreneur, or education self-improvement in 12 countries.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Whoa.
Like, as we sit here today, we are top 100 in the U.S. for entrepreneur podcasts.
Wow.
As we sit here today.
That's pretty cool.
So,
you're welcome, America.
I mean, it's crazy. We've been as high. It's like we've been top 10 in some countries.
Wow.
For different podcasts.
What country are we the highest in?
Bulgaria.
Oh, yeah. They love us there.
They do.
Who doesn't love us there?
The Bulgarians love us.
We should fly there. We get free food.
Shouldn't we be sponsored by them?
Yeah. Somebody in Bulgaria should sponsor us. What do they have there?
So I think what happened is we had one Bulgarian listener. And they listened to it once.
Is there a military base there or something? Like, I wonder. We'll have to look into that. That's really interesting.
So yeah, that's been kind of fun.
Well, it is funny because we have totally veered off the entrepreneur path. And so, but I do think that there's so much that applies to entrepreneurship. You know, I remember talking about this with the Kafusis. You know, like what athletes go through is very similar to starting a business. And so, I mean, a lot of these trials and overcoming those trials, I mean, they apply to everything.
As you think back on it, I have my answer, obviously. That's why I always ask you first.
Right.
Is there a theme over these last 10 episodes that you could kind of walk away with? Redemption.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say like it's redemption and, you know, transformation, I would say. You know, because some of, you know, like Robin didn't need to be redeemed. She didn't do anything wrong, right? But to be able to transform what she went through to what she is doing now is a huge deal. A lot of people wouldn't be able to make it out of that without being totally negatively affected the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And so
let's talk about that. Did you see that she went back to the trail in the place where she was attacked?
That's nuts. I mean, if that doesn't tell you that she's in a really healthy place, you know, and that, and I think that speaks volumes about, it's not about dwelling, like everyone either messes up or has something bad done to them. But no matter what that is, you can turn it around and do good from it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So the theme I wrote down was none of our guests have had a victim mentality.
Yeah.
Like none of them,
which is a big deal.
None of them are allowing what's happened to them to define them.
Right.
Which I think is really awesome and really hard to do.
They're almost doing the opposite. They're using it to fuel.
Exactly.
You know.
And so, like, I was just watching a show on CNBC with A-Rod, like Back Into the Game, where A-Rod goes around to like broke celebrities and tries to like help them like make money again.
Right.
And it's incredible how they all like just play this victim role. Like it's everyone else's fault. Like
you're never going to be able to fix those people.
All of these things, everything is happening to me.
Right.
You know, but it's awesome because something that's kind of always stood out with like my personal coach, she talks about a lot is events don't have meaning. We give meaning to events.
Huh.
And I think that's why.
Just all perception.
Yep. Because like when someone who's old passes away as opposed to someone young passes away, you know, the death itself is the same event, but the meaning we give it is very different. You know, and when you see people who go through hard things, like a lot of our guests, have they gone through hard things? It would be really easy to put meaning on that event of I'm a victim, I'm scared, I'm never going to be successful because of that.
Right.
You know, but like you talked about, the meaning they're giving it is this is my motivation and I'm going to do everything in spite of it.
Right.
And so that was the fun underlying theme for me was, you know, we get to choose the meaning we give. And I like that because I always tell people you get to choose to act or react. You know, like if someone's mean to you, you get to choose to react to them being a jerk, or you can choose to act and be happy no matter what they do.
Can you do both?
No.
Because I feel like I want to punch somebody that's mean, but then I'll act nice after. Right?
So.
I mean, that's fair because they need to learn. There are some real dicks in the world. Sorry that I went there.
Did something just happen?
This morning, I had some dude flashing his, it's like, oh no, yesterday morning on my way to my cook. Like, driving is where you see it. Like, we're just mean to each other.
Do you know the best thing that ever happened to me with driving? So my mission kind of ruined me because in El Salvador, the way you communicate with drivers is by honking your horn.
Right.
Like, it's not, I'm mad at you. It's like,
it's just a little reminder.
Here's a couple taps here. I'm coming here. A couple taps there. I'm going there. But now I like to use my horn
I use it too.
To communicate with people.
In Morse code, F-U-C.
Like Jenna's like, Andrew, easy with the horn.
Yeah.
But like, I was getting.
But there's horn language, like
sure.
Like you said, like a little tap is just like, hey, it's green. Get off your phone.
See,
and go.
My thing was like, I like to make sure they're extra long.
Right. Well, that's different.
Like
that's
I'll lay on it, and Jenna's like, "What are you doing?" I'm just like, I'm just making sure they heard it. You know,
now you have a truck horn.
I'm giving them an opportunity to learn.
Right, dude. We're here to teach.
But do you know what's changed?
That's why we're big in Bulgaria.
Driving is all I do is I picture my grandma driving. Because I'm like,
see, that might make more mad. So she shouldn't be driving.
So
she's too
like,
old.
I just imagine though, like, if
right, and you never know.
If someone was acting the way I act sometimes to my grandma, I would be furious. I'm like, hey, would you relax?
Right.
You know, so like a lot of times I'll pull up and someone's going 20 miles under the speed limit, and I'm just like, what's happening? And they deserve it. They deserve a horn honk. But I'm like, hey, if that was my grandma, then I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna let it go.
I'll agree with you on the first 3 lanes on the right hand side of I-15. But if you're in the left hand lane and you're doing the speed limit or under, you deserve every honk that you get, and brights.
And brights.
Like the left lane loafing in Utah is out of control. You know, there's only like 3 states that don't have it as a law, and we're one of them. Like cell phones are ruining traffic.
All the time. Whenever something happens, it's an easy thing. They're looking down at their phone. They're doing something different.
They're pulling people over seatbelts, but really they need to start pulling people over cell phones because they're just so bad. Anyways, sorry, the ADD kicked in.
I don't know how you could ever do anything about that.
We veered. You can't, dude. I was pulled over in Chicago for looking at a phone 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Chicago, like they don't mess around there. California's the same way. Like if you get caught with a phone in your hand, like you're getting a ticket, and that's how it needs to be treated here, because it's just so bad.
It is. It's getting like the people being distracted is.
Yep. Well, they drive really slow too, so it really does affect traffic. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It would be to go back to what we were talking about. It'd be really easy to just be pissed off, victim mentality. When that stuff happens to you, it would, it's like that saying, that kid I heard on my mission that just said, if you don't want to be happy, just don't do anything. Like you don't have to do anything. You'll just be sad and mad. But if you want to be happy, you have to work hard.
Yeah.
And you'd have to work even harder going through what, all of these people went through.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's not a lot of people that could make it out of those. The other thing I was thinking about was like my brothers and sisters. We went through some tough stuff with divorce, and I remember back at the time where you just think like you're living in the reality of, whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever, and you just think like their life is ruined. Like we get so sucked into the present. Mm-hmm. And for some reason we put this whole like, their world is ending, their life is over, look what you're doing to yourself. And now everyone's, happy, healthy, married with kids, some of them, everyone owns homes, like great members of society, right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny how just 10 years can change everything. So perception is a big deal, not looking at some of those things that at the time you may think that you're in the worst hell of your life, but 5 years from now you'll look back at it and if you do it right, you'll be as grateful for that as anything.
Yeah. A quote that reminds me of that is people will people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10.
Right. Yep. I
so
remember you saying that before.
Like we always have this, we're going to do all this stuff this year, and we kind of overestimate what we really can do in a short amount of time.
Right.
but we don't give ourselves enough credit. And I really think we just don't stick to it long enough to accomplish what we could in 10.
Well, and even when you don't intend, it's amazing, how resilient human beings really are. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It could probably be twice as good if, you have intentions and goals and have like a 10-year plan. I will never have that. But things have gotten a lot better over the last 10 years, right? I work hard and try to do my best. And I think naturally things can always get better if you're just trying to make them better. And so speaking of every 10 years, I just learned something from you about 20 minutes ago.
What's that?
That you should double your money every 10 years.
Oh.
Did you people know that? I didn't. I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, it's not that you should.
7%. Well, yeah, you should.
It's the rule of 72.
Okay.
So you take...
Here's some free advice. Go ahead.
The number of years divided by 72. So take 10 years, 72, so 7.2.
Right.
So if you earn a 7.2% rate of return, you should double your money every 10 years. So if you want to do it faster, you got to go higher.
So we're shooting for 7%.
Sure.
Anything over that's a Ponzi scheme, probably. So you got to be careful. If somebody's giving you 20%, they're going to be in jail probably in a few years. Just kidding. They're out there, I'm sure.
This year's been one of them.
Yeah.
You would know if you would ever got your information.
We call that a bear market, Andrew, and barbecue. Isn't that right? Bear's good, bull bad.
So I want to hit on something that's kind of been fun to see.
Bull good, bear bad? Yeah.
Well, think about it. Bull, because the horns are going up, so the markets are going up. Bear attacks down, so the markets go down.
Okay.
See? Taught you something else.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I wouldn't want to be attacked by either one of them, no. Frankly.
So what's been fun to see this last 10 episodes is what kind of our guests, a lot's changed for them even since like we've done the episode.
Oh,
so
really?
like, Jason and Brigitte. Right. So we interviewed them.
Oh, yeah.
It was their first podcast. They come on and literally within weeks, they liked it so much. They had such a good response. They launched their own podcast. We told them
in the episode, you guys need to do a podcast.
And they did it.
Yeah.
And now they are killing it.
Killing it. Not just in Bulgaria.
No.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Like they are killing it. And was it last week or 2 weeks ago? They threw like the first live event and had 700 plus people come.
Yeah. And really small seats, and it was really hot.
Yes.
It was at a middle school, and I didn't fit in the fold-up auditorium seats very well.
But it's cool to see, like, there's been a huge evolution in the past 2 months in their business. Like, they've added all of this extra stuff that, I don't think that they were necessarily doing as much before.
Right.
That's
cool. It goes to show how much people want to know what's behind the person.
Yeah.
Like Tandy.
Yeah.
It's so funny watching her at Wasatch Combat because she's so good with kids. She's a sweetheart. She could beat you up. But now when I look at her totally differently. I just think of the recycle truck.
I just think, you got
like she died. Like she died.
Yeah.
And ran away. Like, talk about like freaking out about your kids in the moment. Like, this girl had a boyfriend and ran away. And was sleeping in dumpsters.
Yeah.
And it's just like, my daughter's gone.
And look at her now.
And so it really does put an interesting perspective on things. Like, for any of you parents out there, I remember seeing it with my parents. And, I remember the first year we were married, my youngest brother had to live with us in our apartment because he was kicked out of both my mom and my dad's house. And it was just like, it's over. But man, he came over. We got him through high school. He graduated, great life, great kid. It's just, it's so easy to get caught up in, whatever bad thing may be happening. But you don't realize it's just like, hey, people make mistakes. And they turn around and now look at Tandy, married, beautiful kids, awesome business, third degree black belt, beat you up.
Yeah.
She's awesome. And I mean, it's crazy to think that 15 years ago, she was, or 20 years ago, she was killed in a recycling truck.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. Danny.
Well, yeah. I showed you the text, I mean, that he was sending me, like after his episode, he was like, this person reached out and this person reached out and this person reached out. And it's just like, there is so much pain and suffering.
That text was nuts.
You know, that the people are, I think, one, they're hiding, and two, they don't quite know what to deal with. Mm-hmm. And so what's been fun is some of our guest stories is almost like giving permission to people to talk about things more openly. You know, like it's putting these taboo or really uncomfortable conversations
that shouldn't be uncomfortable.
They shouldn't be, but they are.
But they are.
It puts them more out in the open.
Right.
You know, like this morning at the gym, literally walking off of the treadmill, I ran into a friend and she was talking about how amazing Robin is and how she sent that podcast to all of her friends.
Right.
You know, how she's like, we're going to have a discussion about this over Thanksgiving. So you guys all better be ready for that, you know, but it's like, it's getting that conversation out there. And for me, if it helps one person,
that's what it's all about,
you know, then you've done your job, right? If you can impact one person, then you need to keep going because you never know what type of impact it's going to continue to have on more people.
Right. And, you know, and sharing, you know, that social media, I've been in this weird place lately where I'm just kind of over it. There's just so much, you know, like even some of the people that I love, like it's just so much. But like what you just said brings up an interesting point. Like you got to put yourself out there to be able to help people. Because, I mean, everybody can help somebody, even if it's just, you know, like you look at Abby, for example. Like, she's just so much fun. Like, that helps people. Like, that lifts people's spirit. It's a big deal. Like, you don't have to have a Tandy or Danny or Robin story or Tyson. You know, you don't have to have some crazy story to be able to help. I mean, just being happy and full of light and just being yourself and putting yourself out there can help people out. Mm-hmm. And so I've got to lighten up on the social media thing a little bit because it's so big. Like if we're not sharing, we're not helping anybody.
It definitely is one of those things where you find what you're looking for.
Right.
And it's kind of like it is the best of times and it is the worst of times.
Yeah.
Like you get on Instagram, you can either be super annoyed.
Well, it's like what you said. Yeah.
Really
it's perception,
quick,
right? It's,
you know, or
you got to just put that out of your mind and just think, you know, the podcast has helped me with that too, though, because you get to know people behind it. Like I'll sell myself out here. I'll say about half of our episodes, I won't say who, I was not looking forward to meeting these people. Just like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like this person is this or that, or like it's just too much social media. And every time except once, and I'm not saying who that was, I've been totally slapped upside the head. And now it's funny because every time we'll be like, wait, who do you want to have on? And Brent will just be like, dude, you say this every time. And then at the end, you're going to love the person and you'll be good friends. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. But whatever. So it is funny how perception is a huge deal. Like you can look at it, you know, one of two ways. Going
back to we give meanings to it, right?
Right.
Our perception, we totally get to choose.
Right.
How we see it and what we see it for. And there's a lot of stuff I don't get or don't understand, but it's just like you can appreciate that it's different.
Right. Well, and I think for me, I want to know that it's authentic.
Yeah.
Right. Because I feel like there are people that want to be on Instagram just to be Insta famous and get free stuff. And then there's people that just need to share and they're just here to share. And I think you can tell a difference, right? Like Abby is Abby because she's Abby.
Yeah.
You know, like her Instagram account blew up because she was just doing Abby things. And she still does Abby things. And it's just hilarious. And it brightens your day. You know, Late with Kate is another one. She hasn't been a guest yet. Right? We may have her on the books. Hint, hint. But she's just consistent and she's just Kate. You know, Kim is the same way. They're pretty much everyone we've had on.
Yeah.
Has been that way. And it's, of course, what they're going to put on social media is not going to be the everyday person that you see, like Johnson Files, right?
Well, Sean talked about it, right?
Sean's not Mr. Chipper funny guy all the time, but when he performs and makes our days better, he turns it on, just like any performer does. And so we do need to look at it through that lens. Like, hey, they're making it fun for us. They're trying to be entertaining, but, you know.
So Jenna and I actually had a long conversation about this. She claims this is profound. I'm going to say it again, just in case it really is, so I make sure I get credit for it on air. Because she was talking about like her being uncomfortable, like putting herself, like her face,
right,
on the camera or in pictures. Because like, if you look at her, or even like her puppy thing, she's talking a lot in it, but she wasn't putting herself out there. And she was just like, whenever people see me, they respond differently.
100%.
You know, and you've talked about that with Bam Bams, you know what I mean? And that's something that
it's hard
on our side, on Nitty Gritty. Like, we're never there,
right?
You know what I mean? So we can do better. But we were talking about this, and something came to mind that I think there's two ways you can look at it, and it's what you talked about. It's who you are trying to be. But I think there's people that are saying, "Hey, look at me."
Yes.
But then there's people that are saying, "This is me."
Yeah.
And it's very different.
100%.
And it comes back to the person they are and kind of their authenticity on, you know, look at me, I want the attention, or, hey, I'm going to create genuine relationships. So this is who I am, you know?
Yep.
And so I
think that's huge. I haven't really thought of it that way. And that's the thing. Like it's people do want to know you. You know, it is funny because when I think about that, I struggle too. Like, I don't want to look like I'm cocky or overconfident or all about myself. But it's funny hearing you say that about Jenna. I'm like, yeah, that's stupid. I want to see Jenna. Like, why isn't Jenna on there? She'd be great.
She's awesome.
And that's how people think about
awesome.
me.
She's
right?
funny, right?
And that, right. Oh, she's one of my favorite people ever. And but the same thing applies when I'm sure people hear me say, like, they don't want to see me. No, they do. Like, I have a good story. You know, I've got a cool business.
How else are you going to have a relationship if you don't ever see the person?
Well, and you're right. And so that's always a good little wake up call to remember that. I mean, it's no different than somebody wanting to see you in real life.
Exactly.
You know, it's just being a friend or being there and staying connected. And so it just allows us to stay connected to more people, which is special.
And I've been surprised at, I mean, I think we talked about this last episode on the recap, but it continues to be true. But like the genuine relationships that we formed through social media and through our guests, you know what I mean? Like
they're all through. So, I mean, almost all of them have been that way.
We've known someone will reach out to them, but it's been like I would call them like real friends. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Like, it's funny. Like, I think I talked to Jared Gold Yeller like multiple times a week. Yeah.
He's always sending me something about how great Canada is.
You know, but like Danny, like I talk to Danny all the time, and in touch with Robin. You know, a lot of our guests, you know, stay in close contact with, and it's been fun to kind of expand. I mean, it feels like it really is becoming like a family almost, like between all of our guests. Like a lot of them already know each other, which is how we're kind of all coming together.
Right.
You know, but even Jared, like last night, he sent me a text. He's going to be down here in a couple of weeks, and he was like, we need to have like a family reunion. Yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, we need to get the Nitty Gritty family together. I was like, that would be like, throw a big party and just have all of our guests. Christmas. Like, that would be so fun.
That would be really cool. I think doing that in a year would be awesome.
Or he wants to do it like now, but obviously
there'd only be like 30 people there.
That's a big party.
Well, but only 50% of the people are going to be able to come.
Yeah, but that's still a big party.
I don't know about that. 20's not that big.
So, but yeah, I mean, outside of that, has there been a story that maybe impacted you more than another of our past guests, or something that kind of surprised you more?
I mean, they were all shocking. I think I'll pick out the 2 times I cried in the last 2 episodes, which I try not to do on the podcast. But when you're sitting across from somebody like Tandy or Robin or Danny, and you're hearing it's like with Kim White, you know, when she was telling me the story about Dr. Z, And you're just like, when you get to hear it from the horse's mouth and feel that and see it in their eyes, you know, like Danny's story of being in that basement and, you know, the friends and family had given up 5 times over, but for his dad to still be in a place spiritually to feel something that night, like, I got to go out and look for my kid. And how do you find a, you know, just messed up, you know, heroin addict in a basement in Provo?
I mean,
like,
it's obvious.
It's crazy. And so, and to hear him come in and, you know, I remember when he said, he just acted prideful, like, no, I'm fine, I don't need you. And right when he walked out of the door, he finally had that. I know he doesn't like to say rock bottom, but, you know, something incentivized him to say, you know, scream, like, you'll be dead. Like, his spirit was kind of going in and out of his body that night. Do you remember hearing that?
Mm-hmm.
And then he just used every ounce of energy he had to scream, and his dad came and picked him up in his arms like a little kid because he only weighed 95 pounds and took him to rehab. And I mean, this is a guy that 5 years before was married, had a nice house, owned an insurance business, and he's a 95-pound drug addict in a basement who's wrecked cars and stolen. And talk about a transformation, right? And a story of redemption. And so, what's
crazy, I found out too, like, he didn't tell us half his stories.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, you can't fit all the, oh, dude, I bet, I can only imagine the stuff that he has been through. It's like you could probably fill up another 10 episodes.
Yeah.
But, you know, that one, and then, Tandy's is crazy, but Robin was the other time that I cried when she was talking about, I think it was somebody just saying, or her saying, like, I'm here now, or I'm here for you, or I'm next to you. Like, she's basically taken her experience and now she's protecting thousands of other women.
Well, she just launched a course.
Right. And that, I mean, that's
an online course now for self-defense, which is awesome.
It's acting, right? It's how you act, right? I'll never forget when she said sorry.
Yeah.
To the guy, like, oh, sorry. I was like, I'd stab a knife in that guy's heart and say, take that.
Yeah.
But she's like, oh, sorry. It just breaks my heart that there are people that would take advantage of such a sweet person like that. But look, obviously we don't want anybody to ever have to live through that. But again, she took what happened to her and said, what can I do with this? And how could I make sure that this will never happen to anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, talk about brass balls, man.
Yeah.
I mean, she just is totally open with her story and super confident. She found that perfect blend between, you know, urgency and paranoia, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's not someone to make you feel like you can't go anywhere. She's just teaching you how you can go anywhere and just be safe and vigilant and smart.
Just, like simple things. If you're going to go run, do it in the day and take some pepper spray.
Right.
You know,
or run with someone.
Like, add just like a little,
and if there's been 10 rapes on the Provo River Trail, maybe don't go run on the Provo River Trail.
Yeah. Maybe do something different.
Every time I see a girl running, I'll go to Walgreens. I said it on her podcast. I'll see some girl running, like, even in the middle of the day. It is so overgrown down there. It's like, with all the store, why are you running on that trail? Anyway, sorry, tangent, but it's amazing. A little bit of common sense can go a long way, because you just never know. It's like when something gets stolen. Like, I've had my truck broken into a few times. You just never think something like that will happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, when you least expect it is when something like that can happen. So it's just be a little bit more aware.
Yeah.
And like, her tips are really fascinating. Like, she really puts a lot of thought into them. And man, if anybody can have that platform or deserves that platform, it's her.
Yeah.
I mean, that story was, it's amazing. And so Yeah. It's funny thinking back. I haven't thought about some of these since the episodes, and I just didn't really realize how much depth the last 10 episodes had. I mean, we're getting into the deep and dark stories, but then we had like Anna
and Abby,
right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Anna she's brilliant. I mean, you can learn so much as far as social media goes from her. She's a legend. We both bought the course.
Yep.
Right. I still haven't done it.
We both know who's actually gone through it.
Yeah. Well, it's there when I'm ready. Okay. But I had to support, and the few that I watched is like, I had already implemented a couple of those things, but I would have never thought like it's. I can only imagine what else I still have to learn. But
well, and then even last week with Kevin and Annie, to go from one location in the back of a barber shop. I mean, we're talking about drinks and cookies. I mean, could you get anything that's more commoditized?
No. Well, and
honestly,
you nailed it. This is why the podcast is so cool, because I just thought it was Kevin's show. I didn't realize how involved Annie was.
Dude, Annie's the boss,
and that she thought of the whole thing.
Yeah,
she just said, "I'm doing it." It's kind of like Robin, right?
Yeah,
where she just signed her own lease, just like I don't like Sasquatch. I'm doing this. Yeah. Like I signed the papers. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And so it's really cool now when you drive by that So Delicious. It's not just cookies and crack, right? It's like,
well, like you said,
see the whole story now, and it really connects you to it.
Well, and hearing Kevin talk about like the why behind it, reminded me of like Reno with Perk,
right?
Before it was just like a good tasting drink, but he was like, no, like
your hug,
like it meant more to this woman in the drive-thru that was going through a divorce and had a crappy day,
right?
When she got that drink, it
want to talk about it? Isn't that what he said? Want to talk about it? She's like, just give me my cookie.
Like rolls up the window and drives off.
Yep. It's like, nope, I just want my cookie and soda. Men are evil. Bye.
But like having that, I mean, they talked about it a lot. Like it lost some of that as they grew. And now they're fighting to get it back. And you'll see companies that do that. I think that was the thing I was most impressed about with Bob Berg, is he literally is every part of that book that I love.
Right.
He embodies it. Like it's not some story that he told. Like these 5 laws and principles of success, they are things that he lives. Like it is true to him. And that was probably the best thing for me, because there are times where you'll meet someone and you are disappointed.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Way more often than not.
And so
you're disappointed. And we don't live in necessarily a time of authenticity.
Yeah.
It's so awesome to meet somebody who is what you expect them to be, genuine and
even
authentic.
More.
Right.
Like it was awesome. He wrote my mom a handwritten thank you letter.
Right.
Like he was just so rad. But going back to the episodes, I mean, I think there really is, you could go down every one of the 10 and there's something really impactful. I would say the 2 most for me, outside of like Robin and Tandy, just because it was like mind blowing, like sexual abuse and dying. It's like, oh my gosh. But like, it was something that I felt like impacted me, but it was more of it made me think of others. Like with Robin, it made me think of like my wife and my mom and my sisters, but like it didn't make me, and this might be super arrogant and wrong, but it didn't make me be like, oh, I should change something that I'm doing.
Right.
But it was super impactful. But Danny's episode, I felt at the end of it, it was applicable to way more than drug abuse.
Oh, for sure.
Like I had conversations with people, and it was like, it was the realization that we are acting like addicts, and it wasn't necessarily a substance or drugs or alcohol or anything like that. It might have been anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what he talks about in his steps, and like the intervention, like he calls it,
right.
The ability to stand up to the person and let them know, like, hey, something needs to change, like that. So that was really impactful, like the ability to apply it. And I think it also, there's something going on like and personally that it was applicable to that kind of made it stand out. And then the other one was Tyson. I hadn't really thought on like how this would impact him.
Yeah.
Like
I bet this has been a big thing for him,
like as he talked about like telling his story, I was always like, oh yeah, that'll be cool, you know, and like, cause like
Right.
you just said it, for us, we can interview them, but like we're on to the next episode. And so we'll remember it, but we don't like live in it.
Right.
And I remember talking to him, and like after it was released, like he was like, it was really affecting him, you
Like
know,
negatively?
yeah. He
Right.
was just worrying about what he had said. And I started to put myself in his shoes. Like, can you imagine now for the rest of your life, people are going to start asking you questions.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you just said something and they're going to forget about it in a couple of days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he opened himself up for questions for the rest of his life. And like the text messages that we had, like after his episode was, I mean, he was really worried, and he was super scared, like post himself about it.
Right.
And like we kind of talked through some stuff, and then he ended up posting, and I saw him a couple days later, and he was like, oh my gosh, I've had so many people reach out to me, and it's been so positive. He had a lot of his family members from other of his moms and families that have reached out to him, you know, and he just talked about like how positive everything was, you know. And at that point I realized like it's way bigger than a podcast for him. Like that was his life story. That was the first time he told it. And it's something that really legitimately changed his life forever, you know? And so like, I never really thought of it before, because a lot of our guests have told their stories before, or, you know, people know most or some of
Right.
what we talk about. But he was like I put myself in his shoes, and I was like, yeah,
That took some guts.
oh my gosh, that was so brave.
Well, it was probably a relief
courageous
for him too. You know, it's just it serves another reminder that it's so funny how, like, why weren't those people reaching out before? You
And
know?
maybe they were.
Well, and here, but that's the thing is, it's so funny how we hold things in,
Oh yeah.
you know, and it takes one person to get up and tell the story,
Yeah.
and it opens the door for a lot of people to
sure.
to you know, come out with whatever they need to come out with. And you know, I think the lesson learned is don't wait. You know, there's nothing that you can't overcome or, you know, deal with and spin it to a positive. And I think that we all just, it's amazing how much we worry about each other, you know, and what other people will think. But pretty much every person you talk to on a daily basis has a secret or has something
yeah.
they struggle with. And
right.
the most judgmental people out there are the ones that probably have more skeletons in their closet than anybody else.
The only reason they're judgmental is because they're judging others.
Yep.
Right. So they're worried about how they're going to get judged. But that's why
Misery loves company, man.
well, that's why I posted that quote. Like a lot of people say it's from Nelson Mandela, but whatever, the one about like our deepest fear. But the way it ends is, you know, as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, so it's like, to your point, as we stand up and open that door, it's amazing how many people are just going to walk through it.
Yeah, look
But
at Danny Deaton and Tyson.
Everyone is just sitting back waiting for someone to do the work, you know? I think that's something else that stood out to me, and it's been a topic of like study for me the last couple of weeks about motivation, because Mel Robbins talks a lot about it in her book, The 5-Second Rule. And she did a cool podcast with Lewis Howes. And she just talks about how motivation is such BS. Like everyone talks about, oh, I'm so motivated, this and that. It's like motivation is crap, because when you need it, it's never there.
That I totally agree with.
You know, so she talks a lot about how everything comes from like, people talk about that we try to make logical decisions, but at the end of the day, logic isn't there either. Like, it's,
Right.
you know, like, cause so her example, Mel Robbins' example was like, she was going through a really hard time. Like she was laid off, her husband lost his business, they were losing their house, like just all sorts of crazy stuff. And she's like, every night I had a plan. Every night I said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this. And she was like, everything felt good at night. I knew exactly what I was going to do.
This is totally me.
And she's like, in the morning, what did I do? I hit the snooze button.
Yep.
She's like, I woke up, and instead of doing something about it, I just hit the snooze button. And so her whole book is about how this 5-second rule, and she did it.
I need to read this book, because
She
that's
did it-
me, man. Why
she
is
did
my
it
brain so alive at night?
Like she did it unintentionally, but there's a lot of neuroscience behind it. So the next morning she was laying in bed and she's like, I just watched the night before, like something about a rocket ship. You know, they go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Right.
blast off. So she's laying in bed the next morning and she's like, I literally did this out loud. She went 5, 4, 3,
Really?
2, 1. And then she just stood up. And she was like, that moment changed my life forever.
Really?
And so that's her whole 5-second rule is that. She's like, whenever you think of something, you have 5 seconds to act on it. And if you don't act on it, your brain will kill it.
Interesting.
And so she's like, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She's like, I did it accidentally. But since then, she's studying. There's so much neuroscience behind it on how the different parts of the brain are activated.
Brain is crazy.
You know? And so now it's like, you have to just act. And so motivation is crap. Like people that wait and say, oh, as soon as I am this,
Right.
you know, as soon as I have this much money, then I'll do that. Or if I do this, then I'm going to do that. That point, that never comes.
No.
You just have to start, you know, like you build it one step at a time, but you can never, like, you're never just going to wake up one day and have the motivation to do it.
That's true.
You know, you
Very true.
get it by doing the act over and over again. And she talks about like, you're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. And so you have to break this habit,
Right.
you know, so it's fascinating. Like I'm super into it right now, but a lot of these people, you know, Robin, I wanted to start a dance studio. So the next day, literally the next day, I signed a 5-year lease.
I'd be so mad. Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? Like Jenna.
But it sure worked.
Jenna was like, hey, I want to breed puppies. All of a sudden we have 2 dogs and we're on our 2nd litter of puppies.
As of last night.
As of last night, we now have 4 more puppies. And what's awesome, she had pre-sold 3 of them before they were even
Oh
born
my gosh.
from
That's
people all over the nation.
insane.
It's awesome. I love it.
Poor Maggie.
So,
Poor Maggie.
but yeah, so I mean, this is what I love the podcast for, because it's like when you teach a class, like the teacher always learns more than the student.
Yep.
You know, so as like hosting the show, like the fact that we get to just hang out with these people and talk to them, like I walk away with so much.
Yeah, we
You know,
really do.
and
And it's funny. People have asked, like, do you get paid to do that? I'm like, no. Well, then why are you doing it? I'm like, because I get to talk to amazing people and hear incredible stories and, you know, hopefully play a small part in helping other people out. Like,
Yeah.
I make money at my job.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if we ever made money off of this, great. But to me, the real value is exactly what you just said. It's, you know, giving a platform to people to share, and like what you quoted, just opening the door for, like, reading that text about Danny that you sent. Just, I mean, that hour and a half we spent might have saved 3 lives.
Yeah.
I mean, literally saved 3 lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
That's real impact.
that is huge.
You know, that's true influence, like they like to say these days.
Yeah. Oh, the influence word.
But I will say the one thing I do have an ask for anyone who's listening right now. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
We don't ask for very much, right?
I don't think we've ever asked for anything.
So I'm going to ask if you've enjoyed our podcast, if you enjoy listening to it, please go and rate it and review it.
Yeah, we don't ask that enough.
We
My
don't.
wife tells us tells me, like, you need to say subscribe and share, and it's funny. It's kind of like the Instagram thing. Like, we don't want to bother people, but
Yeah.
in reality, it's like, hey, we're not getting paid to do this. We're doing it because we think it's a valuable thing, and there's an investment on our side of things to do it,
Yeah.
and a cost to do it. So it's like, man, I don't think it's out of bounds for us to ask for people to help us like that.
And I think, like, for me, I don't think I've ever left a review for a product I bought. It's just not in me. I'm just not a
Yeah.
person who reviews
Bad or
stuff.
good?
Yeah, bad or good.
Yeah, I'm
you
kind
know,
of the same way.
like I just don't like. I always use the reviews, and I'm always grateful
Isn't that
for them.
funny?
But I never review stuff. Like I won't buy something unless I read the reviews.
Right.
But I never give back. Like I am so guilty of it. And so, like, after starting the podcast, I've tried to be better at it, because like we have literally thousands and thousands of people who listen. You know, we have 48 reviews.
Yeah, that's strange.
You know
but
what
see,
I
it's
mean?
like the restaurant.
And so
A happy customer doesn't leave a review. They just come back to the restaurant.
yeah.
And it's the ones that are not happy, or they're friends with another restaurant that they,
For sure.
like better. But it's that leave reviews, and that is something that we need to change.
And so, I do have the ask is, it will take maybe 2 minutes.
It's right on the app, right?
Yeah, wherever you're listening. Now, what's cool is we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio. I mean, everywhere, anywhere you're listening to us. Take 2 seconds, subscribe, but then just write a little review.
Yeah.
What's crazy is the reason we're asking is because the more reviews you get, it tells kind of the podcast host that people care about you, and so your show becomes available to more people.
Yeah.
And our whole goal is to get our story, not our story, our guest's story into as many hands as possible. Like we just said, like Danny's story saved 3 people. Imagine if we had 100,000 people listening.
Oh man.
What if it was 3,000 people he could have saved?
Right.
You know, and the only way we're going to do it, because we're not going to go out and buy ads, and we're not going to go out and, that's just not who we are.
No, we want it to be organic, but we need your help.
But we need a little bit of help. And I know it's uncomfortable. Like I said, it's uncomfortable for me to do it.
Right.
But I think...
But it really isn't. Now that we're talking about it, it is funny how you think...
It's not uncomfortable to do it, but
we
don't
even think about it. Like that's just not really how we are. But I realize now that I think we've earned we've earned the right to ask.
I mean, we're almost 30 episodes in.
Yeah.
We've done I think we do the best job that we can, and we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue, we're going to keep getting better. And as we do that, just ask that you continue to support us.
Yeah.
We have our Instagram page, The Nitty Gritty Show. We have, all of our different things that we're doing. And
really, we love the feedback too.
And that's what I was going to say. At the end of the day, the whole reason we're wanting this is because we want to start creating more of a conversation. Like we want to get questions. We want to find out what guests our listeners want us to get on. And we want to find ways to interact more. Right. And the only way we're going to do that is by, one, us stepping up our engagement level, but 2, we have to know who's listening and where they're at.
Yeah.
Without that, we can't ever.
Well, and I would love to know who they want to hear from. I think that'd be really cool to, if a name keeps popping up.
Yeah.
From our listeners, it's like, hey, it might be somebody who we would never think about.
Yeah.
The other thing, a little good karma is, I'll ask you this question: any new podcasts that you're listening to that have impacted you? Maybe we can do some sharing right now.
So Lewis Howes has a fantastic podcast.
What's it called?
The School of Greatness.
Okay.
So
I have to write that.
He interviews fascinating people. He interviewed. So the ones I listened to recently of his were Mel Robbins and Kobe Bryant.
Really?
It was awesome.
What a cool name, The School of Greatness.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a really cool story. I mean, ultimately, my goal is for Nitty Gritty to become not the School of Greatness, because you don't ever want to become somebody, but to become as impactful as that has become.
Right.
But something that stood out, his episode with Kobe Bryant, is Kobe talked about, Lewis asked him, when you retired, what did you do? And Kobe was and this is straight from the Go-Giver, baby. Kobe didn't know it, but what he said was, the first question I was asking is, what can I go make the most money at? And
really?
Kobe said that was the wrong first question. Kobe Bryant was talking about this. He said it's the wrong first question. When I got it right is what I asked myself was, what do I love to do?
Right.
And the reason why is because he's when I love to do something, I can consistently do it. And so he's that's when Kobe started making the Punies and all these other things that he's doing. It's a love that you can consistently do. And it's oh my gosh, those principles are everywhere.
Yeah.
So Lewis is awesome. The other one that I love that I've been listening to is Business Wars.
Mm-hmm. I think I've heard you talk about
Business Wars is fun. So what they do is they do a season, and it basically tells a story between 2 companies. And the one I just listened to, I listened to Facebook versus Snapchat.
Whoa.
And then Nike versus Adidas.
Okay, that one sounds fascinating. I'm going to have to look.
And they'll do 6 or 7
one.
episodes, and it's just this story of the competition between the business war between these 2 behemoths. And there's all sorts of industries and companies out there. I love
story podcasts like that, like the 30 for 30s, the ESPN ones.
I'm listening to the Donald Sterling this morning.
What a trip. Dude, that was crazy.
But there's tons. And obviously we got to shout out the Mata Shopping movement. They actually do a really good job. I've really enjoyed listening to Jason and Brigitte.
They're amazing. So they're so different, those 2. It cracks me up. Like,
It
they're
was funny to
perfect
see
for
him,
each other, though.
Like, Jason was made for stage, man.
Oh, dude.
That dude at the live event, he was fantastic.
If we could just get a better mic on him and better speakers and some light, I mean, he's a star, man.
Yeah.
He really is.
He was awesome. And
No more filter, Jason, on your Instagram. I want you to take the big lip thing off. I just want to see you. You're hilarious. You don't need it.
so
They were great.
those are things that I'm listening to, and then all sorts of stuff. I'm working on all sorts of stuff. I'm excited for the start of the year. I've got some big
plans,
some big projects that I want to start launching.
Brent.
So,
Sounds stressful.
what about you? Anything that you listened to
So
recently?
there's one. So I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell fan. So
Oh, yeah.
Revisionist History is probably my. I listened to the ones I probably listened to the most. Revisionist History, Conan O'Brien's
love
is
Conan.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then Joe Rogan. But Malcolm Gladwell's company, it's called Pushkin Industries. They produced another one called the Happiness Lab. Like, I love the psychology stuff. So this lady, her name is Dr. Lori Santos. She's a professor at Yale. She created a happiness course, and it's the most popular class ever in Yale's 300-year history. And so it's just all these episodes are breakdowns of all these studies and why we're unhappy and what to do to fix it. And it is fascinating stuff.
Huh.
It is so crazy, especially when you hear the stories about, the stress levels and the pressure, especially on these college kids, and how it affects them and some of the things she's teaching them. So now that course is actually free online. You can actually take this Yale course, in web format, right?
Is it through Coursera?
I don't know. I honestly, I haven't even looked that part up because I just listened to the podcast, but you can actually, it's out there for free. And she's brilliant. She's younger. Like, it's weird. You think of this old, like, academia, like some old crabby PhD lady, right? But she's young and spunky and just, God, it is awesome. So it's fascinating stuff. And that's probably what I'd recommend as my favorite right now. At least my favorite new one. But I'm going to have to check out Business Wars too, because that sounds really fun.
It's really good.
And I'm trimming meat in the morning. Well, cool. So there you go. There's a couple. Any for you, Brent? I know you're not on mic, but you can sign it to us.
He signs it to us.
All I listen to is Nitty Gritty.
Hey, that's a good answer, Brent. Nitty Gritty. That's his favorite.
Well,
that's cool.
What are you most excited, or what are you looking forward to with Nitty Gritty next month and next? What's crazy is, next year we're pushing 30. That's almost 7 months.
Oh,
that we've been doing this.
It's been so cool, and it's I think for me it's interesting to see how it kind of comes in waves for me. Like, I'm excited when we actually record, but between them I don't hardly think about it because I've got the restaurant, but it's funny to see how more and more it's starting to kind of take space up in my mind in between the episodes, especially thinking about some of these stories and then watching how people react to them, throughout the week. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just excited to see kind of what direction it goes. Like, our next 3 guests.
We have lined up next week.
Like, we have 3 episodes we're recording next week.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
All women.
Yeah. Powerhouses.
Like, all powerhouses. And it's just, 2... they're all very different.
Yep.
Right? Like, we'll say one is retail, like a product. One is a self-help course.
Yeah.
And the other is just a fun, high energy, awesome woman, right?
Yeah.
That just brings a lot of joy. She'd probably be the episode most like her would probably be Abby in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, even though they're different, and the Johnson Files, like it's a person that just makes you happy. But so yeah, I'm really excited for those, but I'm kind of excited for what we don't know yet. Like, I have a feeling we're going to talk to some big people this year.
Well, that's
especially
what's
as
crazy.
people help us grow.
I tried to plan this out pretty good before we started.
Yeah.
And as we go, and like we have these lists of people, and it's like the guests that we've had, it's like they came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, I had a lot of them I never knew or heard of. Now we're close friends, and yeah, the doors that are opening, and you know, people we're getting to talk to.
Right.
Like I'm excited, and honestly, it's kind of giving confidence. Like I'm going to start swinging.
Yeah. Well, and that's the
You
other
know,
thing.
like
right?
I swung for Bob Berg,
and it happened.
worked. And now it's like, all right, I'm going to start swinging.
Well, you know, that's another great point to ask the listeners for help with is the more you help us with the subscriptions and the reviews, the more clout it gives us to approach some
for sure.
pretty like cool people.
Yeah.
Like there's a few people that we have on the list that are definitely approachable for us, but I think we've got to be kind of at a certain level to make it worth their time.
And in your respect, everyone kind of works, and when you reach certain levels, you know, you decide what jobs you take and what jobs you don't take.
Yes, and that's fine. I mean, you've got to prioritize. You know, you got to prioritize your time. Some of these people are very, very busy, and so yeah. I mean, it's got to be quid pro quo, right? I can't say that quid pro quo. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's got to be beneficial for both parties, like a marriage.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think there's a couple names in mind that I want to swing for this year in the athletics arena.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing that I think you and I always want to do is do this face to face, and so
which makes it hard, but
makes it
so
hard.
much more fun.
Yes,
and that's what I love about
travel.
Lewis Howes. So
right.
Lewis Howes, every one of his is face to face.
Right.
He gets the biggest names in the world to come to his house.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know, like that's what's cool is like at what point are you able to be like, hey, I'm going to provide you such a platform that you're going to
come to my house.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You know, and he like people are calling me all the time asking, can I come on your podcast?
Right.
You know, and yeah, that's crazy.
Well,
you know, and I want to be able to provide the platform for these people to where they can see a real benefit to them for coming on.
Yeah.
You know, because like their story will impact so many people, but I want them to also get out of it. Like a lot of our guests have done it just because they're cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not necessarily
friends or friends
like,
of friends.
They're not seeing like any real huge benefits, let's call it.
Right.
You know, but the more we get, the more people that like, that listen, that subscribe, that share, you know, it goes.
Well, just what we have now.
It goes a long way.
If just the listeners we have now, like if half of them just give us a quick review and a rating, like.
Oh, we'd be top of the charts in all these.
Oh, it would crank.
It would be awesome.
You know, on the other side of the coin, I brought this up last week, but I also want to talk to just everyday people.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
You know, it's funny listening to a lot of these people. You realize that everybody has a story. Everyone has some sort of struggle or something they've overcome. And I think that there are people out there doing things that nobody ever, like police officers really come to mind. Like they have such a tough, like people don't get what it's like to be a cop. Like that's all I ever wanted to do growing up. A lot of people don't know this. I was hired by the Border Patrol. I rode about 1,000 hours with the Utah Highway Patrol. I rode with the LAPD, the Long Beach Police Department. I saw some crazy stuff. And the crap that they have to deal with on a daily basis. Like,
Once
thank
again,
your
the
lucky
word
stars.
perspective.
It's perspective. Like, we just see their mistakes, right? But when you work day in, day out with people that are either lying and trying to get out of things, or mad at you for pulling them over, or husband and wives fighting, or parents beating children, people stealing, like when you are around that all day, every day, like it really takes a toll on you psychologically.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, there are some of the best people I've ever met are police officers.
Yep.
And I think it'd be really cool to bring one on, especially if we could almost do it like anonymously, you know, just so they can really open up and not, you know, tell us some real stories without, you know, putting their job at risk or anything like that. But
we'll black them out on the video. We'll
won't
do
do
a
video.
voice change.
Yeah, we'll do the dark shadow, the hood on. But I mean, they can't really share what they go through.
Yeah.
And it would be really cool to give one a platform to do that without worrying about, their job or affecting anybody. It just, I bet there's a lot of people with jobs like that, teachers, cops, firefighters, that have dealt with things that,
there's inspiring people.
right. And that's what we want to make it about, right? Is content, it's not just about names and all that. Although a lot of people that are big names, they are there because they are fascinating people and they have a great story. But I think it'd be really cool to give a platform to some of the people that you just pass by every day and you have no idea that they've got such an incredible story.
Well, what's cool is the more we do this, the more people that listen. We can start introducing new episodes and new topics. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and let us know. If you're listening to this, give us that rating and review. And if there's somebody that you want to hear from, or if you've got a friend or family member that no one knows about, but
that's how we found Danny D. And Jason Sham was like, "Hey, you need to talk to this guy."
Exactly.
Never heard of him. Even you go online, he has
he had a few hundred followers. When we first started following him.
You're not necessarily going to be like, "Oh yeah, like this guy is going to be awesome."
But how about that story?
Oh my gosh.
He's a good-looking guy, clean cut, beautiful wife, beautiful kids. He just nice truck. Just looks like an everyday, dresses like a Utah County guy, right? He's got his joggers on, his sweet shoes. See, just like Andrew. My mom, side note, she comes at our kid's soccer game like a month ago.
Yeah.
And she's from Wyoming, up in the country. Or that's where she lives now. And she goes, "Does anybody dress like a man in Utah County?" Because everyone's wearing the tight sweats and the fancy shoes. And, I thought it was so funny. Anyway, but you would never, ever think that there is a 95-pound strung-out heroin addict in the basement on the verge of death.
No.
In 2007.
No.
It's insane. And that should help you not honk as loud when you're driving, right?
There you go.
You just never know what someone's overcome. So
full circle.
So yeah, we'll keep finding them and we'll keep sharing them.
So more than anything, we're so grateful that people actually listen.
It's so cool.
It's so fun that people are paying attention, and
it's getting to the point where people are coming up to us once in a while, just like, "Hey, I'm used to it with the restaurant," which I've always been very grateful for, but I've actually had women mostly come up, and I'm just like, "Oh, maybe she's going to say I'm cute," but it's not. It's just like, "Hey, I really like your podcast."
You're
like,
still
"Oh yeah, you're
one.
welcome." I'm just kidding, but it's Mata shopping at that event. I had a few people come up and just say, "Hey, we really love the podcast," and that's so cool.
Well, and what's fun is we'll get letters like Robin the other day. She's like, "Hey, I found you through Nitty Gritty, and now I can't stop." And even our guests, like Abby has collaborated with Gold Yeller, and Abby got together with Robin all through the Nitty Gritty connection.
It is a family.
You know what I mean? And so
we should get agent fees for that.
We should. Finder fee.
That's right. So when Chick-fil-A signs Abby, we want 3% and free Chick-fil-A.
But yeah, thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this has been very fun for us.
If you don't like it, too bad.
They like it. They wouldn't be listening.
We're going to keep going. And we got some fun stuff planned. So
we do.
But yeah, check it out. Like, subscribe, share, rate, review. I don't know what word you want to use. Do all of them.
Yeah. And follow us.
Yeah.
Follow Bam Bam's Barbecue and Cameron True.
Yep.
And Andrew Van Buren.
Yep.
And Brent. What's yours? Hotboys.com with the Z. Is that still? Oh, no, it's not that anymore. Brent, you think. Brent, we got to give some love to Brent. He does a lot for us. We're very grateful for him. He's the man behind the curtain. So Brent D. Christensen, capital D? No, just D. Okay, just making sure. Okay.
All right, guys, thanks, and we'll check you out on the next episode.
See you next week.